I stood in District Manager Hayes' office at 8:30 a.m., still wearing my postal uniform with 38 years of service pins on my collar. The same uniform I'd worn through rain, snow, heat, and everything in between. The same uniform I'd worn when I delivered birth announcements, college acceptance letters, and wedding invitations to families I'd known for decades. Hayes didn't look up from his tablet as he spoke. "Frank, we're restructuring postal delivery in this district. The company is implementing automated systems, drone delivery pilots, and route optimization software. Your position is being eliminated, effective immediately. 38 years. 38 years of walking the same routes through Riverside neighborhood. 38 years of knowing that Mrs. Chen needed her medications delivered to her side door because the front steps were too steep. 38 years of knowing that the Johnson's dog would bark but never bite. 38 years of being the person who noticed when elderly residents hadn't picked up their mail for days and called for wellness checks. What happened next changed everything. If you've ever been told you're obsolete, if you've ever been replaced by technology that can't care about people, this story is for you. I'm so glad you're here. Please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Because what I discovered about this company, what I did with that information, it proved that some things can't be automated. My name is Frank Wilson. I'm 63 years old. And I was about to learn that being the mailman who knows everyone's name is more powerful than any algorithm. Customer satisfaction scores are down. The automated system will eliminate human error and reduce costs by 42%. Human error. That's what 38 years of perfect service was to him. I walked 12 miles a day, 6 days a week for 38 years. That's over 160,000 miles. I'd walked around the earth 6 times delivering mail to people who depended on me. Mrs. Patterson, 84 years old, living alone. I brought her mail to the door and checked that she was okay. The Rodriguez family, new immigrants who struggled with English. I helped them understand official documents. Tom Bradford, disabled veteran. I cleared snow from his mailbox every winter without being asked. But none of that mattered. I was a line item being eliminated. That afternoon, I walked my route for what I thought would be the last time. The autumn sun felt different. Everything felt different. Every house held memories. Every mailbox represented a relationship. Third house on Maple Street, where I delivered the letter that brought Sarah home from college when her father died. Fifth house on Oak Avenue, where I'd held packages when the family was on vacation because I knew their schedule. Seventh house on Elm Road, where I'd noticed smoke coming from the garage and called 911, saving the house. These weren't just addresses, they were people. They were my community. At 4 p.m., I returned to the post office and turned in my keys. My supervisor, Linda, had tears in her eyes. "This is wrong, Frank," she said. "You're the best carrier we have. The best carrier they had. But not efficient enough for the algorithm. Experienced carriers with decades of service, fired and replaced by temps using GPS apps who don't know the neighborhoods." I thought about the new system Hayes had described, drones for packages, automated sorting, route optimization based on algorithms that didn't account for Mrs. Chen's steep steps or Mr. Bradford's snow-covered mailbox, technology that saw addresses, not people. The next morning, I didn't have to wake up at 5 a.m. For the first time in 38 years, I could sleep in, but I couldn't. My body was programmed. So I got up, made coffee, and sat by the window watching the sunrise. At 6:30 a.m., I saw the new carrier on my old route. Young guy, maybe 25, wearing headphones, staring at a tablet mounted on his cart. He walked past Mrs. Patterson's house without glancing at her door. He stuffed mail into the Rodriguez family's box so carelessly that letters fell out onto the ground. He didn't pick them up. He left packages on Tom Bradford's snowy porch instead of clearing the snow first. And I watched him do something else, something that made my blood run cold. He marked 3 houses as attempted delivery without attempting delivery at all. He updated his tablet, turned around, and moved to the next street. Those 3 houses were elderly residents who rarely left home, who depended on their mail, who were now marked as having refused delivery when no delivery had been attempted. I grabbed my jacket and walked outside. "Hey," I called out. "You missed those 3 houses?" The carrier pulled out his headphones, annoyed. "No, I didn't. System shows attempted delivery. They weren't home. I know those people," I said. "They're always home. They're elderly. You need to deliver their mail. My supervisor says if I'm behind on my delivery time, mark it attempted and move on. We're measured on speed, not on whether grandma gets her mail." He put his headphones back in and walked away. I stood there, furious. This was the efficient system that had replaced me? This was the algorithm-driven service that was supposed to be better? I walked to the 3 houses he'd skipped. Mrs. Patterson's house first. I knocked. She answered after a minute, leaning on her walker. "Frank," she said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I thought they let you go." "They did," I said. "But I noticed your mail didn't get delivered today." "Is that why?" she asked. "I've been waiting for a prescription renewal. It's supposed to arrive today." I called the post office to complain but got a recording. I helped her file a complaint, but I knew it wouldn't matter. The system was designed to prioritize speed over accuracy. Next house, the Rodriguez family. "Mr. Rodriguez answered, frustrated. "No mail again," he said. "3rd day this week. We're expecting immigration documents. If we miss the deadline because mail isn't delivered, we could lose our application." 3rd house, Tom Bradford. He was in his wheelchair on the porch, trying to reach a package the new carrier had left on top of the mailbox, too high for him to reach. "Frank," he called out when he saw me. "Thank God. Can you help me?" I retrieved his package, medication he needed, and helped him inside. "This is what they replaced you with?" he asked bitterly. I made a decision in that moment. I would document everything. Every skipped delivery, every falsified attempt, every elderly resident left without mail, every critical package marked as delivered when it wasn't. If this company thought they could fire me and replace me with a system that didn't care about people, I would prove them wrong. For the next week, I woke up at my usual time and followed the new carrier on my old route. Not obviously, I just happened to be out for walks, happened to be checking my mailbox, happened to be visiting neighbors, and I took notes. Day 1. 7 houses marked attempted delivery without attempts. 4 packages left in rain. 2 elderly residents' mail stuffed carelessly into boxes, bending important documents. Day 2. 5 houses skipped entirely. 3 packages left on porches where they were stolen within hours. 1 resident's medication marked delivered but never received. Day 3. The new carrier spent 20 minutes on his phone parked at the end of the street, then marked 15 houses as completed without visiting them. By day 5, I had a notebook full of evidence. But evidence of what? Poor service? The company didn't care about that. They cared about metrics, and the new carrier's metrics looked great on paper. Fast delivery times, high completion rates, low overtime. The algorithm couldn't see that he was lying. Then I noticed something else, something much worse. On day 6, I watched the new carrier take packages from 3 houses and load them into his personal car instead of the postal van. I followed him after his shift. He drove to a storage facility on the edge of town. I waited outside for an hour. When he left, I walked into the facility. The clerk recognized me. "Frank, what are you doing here? Do you have a unit?" "Not yet," I said. "I'm thinking about renting one." "What sizes do you have?" While she showed me options, I glanced at the registry book on her desk. Unit 247 was rented to someone named Jason Mills, the new carrier on my route. "What's Unit 247 used for?" I asked casually. "Oh, that guy," the clerk said, rolling her eyes. "He stores all kinds of stuff, boxes and packages, says he's running an online business. But it looks like postal boxes to me. I've been wondering if I should report it." "You should," I said. "And I will too." "What do you mean?" I asked. "This isn't just one carrier," she said. "It's systemic. The new efficiency metrics are impossible to meet honestly. Carriers are being pressured to cut corners. And some, like this guy, are stealing packages and selling the contents online." "The company knows?" I asked, shocked. "They suspect," Linda said. "But they're not investigating because the metrics look good. Fast delivery times, low costs, high completion rates. The algorithms say the system is working, so management doesn't look deeper. That's insane, I said. People aren't getting their mail, medications, legal documents, social security checks, and the company doesn't care because the numbers look good? Welcome to the new postal service, Linda said bitterly. Efficiency over accuracy, speed over service, algorithms over people. That night I made a plan. I couldn't just report this to the company. They'd ignore it. I couldn't just report it to my former supervisor. She had no power. I needed evidence. Undeniable, documented evidence that would force the company to act. And I needed the community to know what was happening. Because if there was one thing I'd learned in 38 years, it was that communities have power. Over the next 3 weeks, I became a detective. I documented everything. I took photos of packages marked delivered but never received. I recorded times and locations of skipped deliveries. I interviewed residents who hadn't received critical mail. I tracked the new carrier's schedule and patterns. And I visited that storage unit. Can you prove it? I asked. Maria hesitated. I could check the Wi-Fi logs, she said. And I have security footage. But I could lose my job. You won't, I promised. Because this is bigger than one stolen package. This is about a company that fired experienced workers, replaced them with a system designed to fail, and is now covering up theft and fraud. Help me expose it. Maria printed Wi-Fi logs showing Jason Mills accessing eBay, Amazon, and PayPal repeatedly from the facility. She burned a DVD of security footage showing him carrying postal boxes into the unit. And she gave me copies of the rental agreement. I had evidence of theft, but I needed more. I needed to prove the company knew and was covering it up. I called a friend who still worked in postal administration. Mark had been with the company for 30 years. When I explained what I'd found, he was silent for a long time. Frank, he finally said, I can help you. But you need to understand what you're up against. This isn't just about Riverside. This is nationwide. The company is rolling out this automated system everywhere. They're firing experienced carriers and replacing them with underpaid temps. The theft problem is endemic, and management is suppressing reports because admitting the system is broken would cost millions. How do I prove they're suppressing reports? I asked. I can get you internal emails, Mark said. Complaints that were ignored, investigations that were closed without action, metrics that were manipulated. But if I do this, I'm risking my pension. I understand, I said. And I wouldn't ask if this wasn't important. But people are being hurt. Medications aren't arriving. Legal documents are being lost. And the company is prioritizing efficiency metrics over human welfare. Give me a week, Mark said. This is everything, he said. Emails from district management acknowledging theft problems but ordering supervisors to ignore them. Complaints from carriers about impossible delivery metrics, reports of falsified delivery records, and financial documents showing how much the company is saving by replacing experienced carriers with temps, even accounting for theft losses. They're willing to lose packages if it means lower labor costs? I asked, horrified. It's in the spreadsheets, Mark said. They calculated that losing 5% of packages to theft is cheaper than paying experienced carriers' salaries and benefits. They built theft into their business model. I spent the next 3 days reviewing the documents. They were damning. Emails from District Manager Hayes ordering supervisors to close complaint investigations. Memos from regional management celebrating cost savings while acknowledging increased theft. Financial projections showing that the automated system was profitable even with substantial theft losses. And lists. Lists of experienced carriers who'd been fired and replaced with temps. Hundreds of names. Decades of combined experience eliminated. I had everything I needed. But one person with documents wasn't enough. I needed the community. I needed the people who depended on the Postal Service to understand what was happening. I started with Mrs. Patterson. I visited her and explained everything. The skipped deliveries, the falsified records, the stolen packages, the company's decision to accept theft as a cost of doing business. She was shocked and angry. What can we do? She asked. We organize, I said. We get everyone on this route together. We document what's happening to them. And we take it to the media, the Postal Service Oversight Board, and anyone else who will listen. Mrs. Patterson called her neighbors. Within 2 days, I had a meeting scheduled at the community center with 63 residents from my old route. They all had stories. Rodriguez stood up next. Our immigration documents were marked as delivered, but we never received them. We had to hire a lawyer to file extensions. It cost us $3,000 we don't have. Tom Bradford spoke from his wheelchair. I can't reach packages when they're left on top of the mailbox. I've missed medical appointments because I didn't get reminder notices. And no one at the post office returns my calls. One by one, they shared stories. Lost social security checks, missing birthday cards with money, stolen packages, medications that never arrived, legal documents marked delivered but vanished. I stood up and showed them what I discovered. The falsified delivery records, the stolen packages in the storage unit, the internal emails proving the company knew and didn't care, the financial documents showing they'd built theft into their business model, and I showed them the list of fired experienced carriers, 360 names. Over 8,000 combined years of service, eliminated, replaced by a system designed to fail. The room was silent. Then Mrs. Chen, who'd been quiet, spoke up. "What do we do?" she asked. "We fight back," I said. "We document every missed delivery. We file formal complaints. We contact the media. We reach out to Postal Service Oversight. We make so much noise they can't ignore us. And we demand that experienced carriers be rehired. But I need your help. I can't do this alone." "We're with you, Frank," Mrs. Patterson said. "Every single one of us." Over the next 2 weeks, the community mobilized. Residents documented missed deliveries with photos and timestamps. They filed formal complaints through official Postal Service channels. They wrote letters to local news stations. A story about Postal Service corruption, elderly residents being denied mail, and a veteran mailman exposing a nationwide fraud. That was news. The reporter, David Patterson, came to interview me. I showed him everything. The notebooks documenting missed deliveries, the security footage of stolen packages, the internal emails, the financial documents. "This is bigger than I thought," David said. "This could be a multi-part investigation. Do you have more sources?" Linda, my former supervisor, agreed to be interviewed anonymously. She explained the impossible delivery metrics and the pressure on carriers to falsify records. Mark, the administrator who'd given me the internal documents, agreed to appear in silhouette with his voice disguised. He explained how management suppressed complaints and built theft into the business model. And Maria from the storage facility provided footage and testimony about the stolen packages. The story aired on a Tuesday evening. Mail fraud. How Postal Service automation is failing elderly residents. The segment showed my documentation, interviewed affected residents, and presented the internal emails proving the company knew about the theft. It went viral immediately. Within 24 hours, it had been shared across social media platforms. Other communities started coming forward with identical complaints. Postal workers from other districts reached out to say they'd been fired and replaced with the same broken system. The National Postal Service Oversight Board announced an investigation. Congress scheduled hearings. And District Manager Hayes called me. "Frank," he said, his voice tight, "you've caused significant problems for this company. We're facing multiple investigations because of your actions." "Good," I said. "You fired 360 experienced carriers and replaced us with a system you knew would fail. You built theft into your business model. You prioritized efficiency metrics over people receiving their mail. You deserve every investigation you're facing." He confessed and implicated his supervisor, who had been instructing carriers to falsify records to meet impossible metrics. The FBI got involved when they discovered that some stolen packages contained checks, credit cards, and other financial instruments. Mail fraud is a federal crime. Within 2 weeks, 5 postal employees had been arrested. But the bigger story was the systemic fraud. The internal emails I'd provided proved that district and regional management knew about the theft and falsification, but had ordered it ignored. Congressional hearings began. I was invited to testify. I sat in front of the House Committee on Oversight and Reform and told my story. I explained how I'd worked for 38 years, how I'd known every person on my route, how I'd cared about making sure people got their mail. I explained how the company had fired me and 360 other experienced carriers to implement an automated system designed to fail. I showed the committee the internal documents proving management knew about the theft and falsification. I presented the financial projections showing they'd calculated that theft was cheaper than paying experienced workers. And I introduced them to residents from my route. Mrs. Patterson testified about missing medications. Mr. Rodriguez explained how lost immigration documents had cost his family thousands. Tom Bradford described the indignity of not being able to reach packages left carelessly on his mailbox. The committee was appalled. One congressman said, "You're telling us that the Postal Service fired experienced workers, implemented a system they knew would result in theft and lost mail, and did it because it was cheaper." "That's exactly what I'm telling you," I said. "And I have the documents to prove it." The hearings dominated news coverage for days. Public outrage was enormous. District Manager Hayes was placed on administrative leave. Regional management was being investigated, and the company issued a public apology to affected residents. But I wanted more than an apology. I wanted accountability. I filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of the 360 fired carriers. We sued for wrongful termination, age discrimination, and the damage caused by replacing experienced workers with a system designed to fail. The company tried to settle quietly, but I refused. This needed to be public. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Our attorneys presented the internal emails, the financial documents, and testimony from fired carriers, affected residents, and postal inspectors. The company's defense was weak. They argued that automation was necessary for efficiency and cost savings. Our attorneys countered that efficiency that results in theft, lost mail, and harm to vulnerable residents isn't really efficiency. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found in our favor on all counts. The company was ordered to pay $64 million in damages to the fired carriers. They were ordered to reinstate all 360 carriers with full back pay and benefits. They were ordered to implement new training and oversight systems. And they were ordered to issue a formal apology. But more than the money or the reinstatement, what mattered was the message. That experience matters. That knowing your community matters. That caring about people matters. That some things can't be automated. On the day the verdict was announced, I stood on the courthouse steps with Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Rodriguez, Tom Bradford, and dozens of other residents from my route. Reporters surrounded us. "Frank," one reporter asked, "what do you want people to learn from this story?" "I want people to learn that you don't have to accept being discarded," I said. "When someone tells you you're obsolete, that your experience doesn't matter, that you can be replaced by an algorithm, you can fight back. And when you do, when you stand up for yourself and for the people who depend on you, you can win." The victory wasn't just legal. It was cultural. Across the country, communities started demanding that Postal Service value experienced carriers. Other industries took notice. Companies that had been replacing older workers with automation started reconsidering. The idea that efficiency metrics matter more than human outcomes was being challenged. I was 63 years old when I was fired. 63 years old and told I was obsolete. Too slow, too expensive, not efficient enough for the algorithm. But I'd proven something important. That knowing Mrs. Patterson needed her mail delivered to the side door wasn't inefficient. It was essential. That understanding the Rodriguez family needed help with English wasn't a waste of time. It was service. That clearing snow from Tom Bradford's mailbox wasn't outside my job description. It was human decency. That caring about people isn't something that can be measured by an algorithm, but it's what makes the work matter. 2 months after the verdict, I returned to work, walking my old route, carrying my mailbag, delivering to people I'd known for decades. Mrs. Patterson cried when she saw me. "Welcome back, Frank," she said. "We missed you." The Rodriguez family invited me for dinner to celebrate. Tom Bradford had a welcome back sign on his porch, and every house on the route, every single house, had tied blue ribbons to their mailboxes. A ribbon for every year I'd served them. 38 blue ribbons on 38 mailboxes. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. That first day back, I walked my 12 miles with joy. Every delivery was meaningful. Every resident was happy to see me. Every package was handled with care. This was what automation couldn't replicate: connection, care, community. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to ask you something. Are you still with me? Are you invested in this story? If you are, please take a second right now to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been told you're obsolete? Have you ever fought back against a system that treated you like a number? I want to hear your stories. Because what happened after I returned to work proved that this fight was about more than just one mailman. It was about changing how we value experience and care in a world obsessed with efficiency. The Postal Service reinstated all 360 fired carriers. But they did more than that. They created a new training program. Experienced carriers would train new hires, teaching them not just how to deliver mail, but how to serve communities. The program was called the Community Carrier Initiative, and I was asked to lead it. At 63, I became a trainer, teaching young carriers what I'd learned in 38 years. Not just the mechanics of sorting and delivery, but the philosophy. That mail delivery isn't just about moving packages from point A to point B. It's about connecting people. It's about seeing Mrs. Chen's steep steps and adjusting your route. It's about knowing the Rodriguez family needs help with English and taking 5 minutes to assist. It's about noticing when elderly residents haven't picked up mail in days and doing wellness checks. The first class had 25 new carriers. Young people in their 20s, hired to replace the automation experiment that had failed. I showed them the route. Not the algorithm's route, but the real route. The one that accounts for dogs that bark but don't bite. The one that knows which residents are hard of hearing and need you to knock louder. The one that understands which houses have packages stolen if left on the porch and need to be placed out of sight. This is what algorithms can't teach you, I told them. Care. One young carrier, Maria, asked a question. But doesn't caring about people slow you down? Doesn't it make you less efficient? Yes, I said. It makes you slower, but it makes you better. And in the long run, being better matters more than being faster. Over the next year, the Community Carrier Initiative expanded. 200 experienced carriers training over 1,000 new hires. Delivery services, home health care, public transportation, all industries where experience and community knowledge mattered, but had been undervalued in favor of automation. I received invitations to speak at conferences. Business schools wanted to study what we'd done. Management consultants asked how to balance efficiency with care. And I always said the same thing. You don't balance them. You prioritize care and let efficiency follow. Because when you care about doing the job right, when you see people rather than metrics, efficiency happens naturally. At 64, I was featured in a documentary about the future of work. The filmmaker asked me what I'd learned from being fired and fighting back. I learned that experience isn't obsolete, I said. I learned that caring about people is a skill, not a weakness. I learned that communities have power when they organize. And I learned that you're never too old to fight for what's right. The documentary won awards. It was shown in schools and corporations. And it sparked a broader conversation about how society treats older workers. At 65, I was invited to testify before Congress again, this time about age discrimination in the workplace. I told my story. I presented data showing that millions of workers over 50 were being pushed out of jobs and replaced by younger, cheaper workers or automation. I explained the hidden costs, lost institutional knowledge, decreased quality of service, communities that suffered when experienced workers were eliminated. And I proposed solutions. Tax incentives for companies that retain experienced workers, penalties for age discrimination, programs that pair experienced workers with new hires for mentoring, protection for workers who report systemic problems. Some of my proposals became law. The Experienced Worker Protection Act passed with bipartisan support. It created incentives for retaining workers over 50 and strengthened age discrimination protections. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. At 66, I was still walking my route, still delivering mail to Mrs. Patterson and the Rodriguez family and Tom Bradford, still training new carriers, still proving that experience matters. My wife Carol cried when I showed her. After they fired you? After they told you that you were obsolete? Now they want to give you an award? Yes, I said, because we proved them wrong. The ceremony was held in a grand hall with hundreds of postal workers attending. The Postmaster General spoke about the importance of community-centered service, about the lessons learned from the automation disaster, about the value of experienced workers. Then he called me to the stage. Frank Wilson, he said, served his community for 38 years. When he was fired, he could have accepted it. He could have walked away bitter and defeated. Instead, he exposed systemic fraud, organized his community, fought for justice, and changed how the Postal Service operates. He proved that experience matters, that caring for people matters, that some things can't be automated. Today, we honor him not just for his service, but for his courage. He placed a medal around my neck. The room erupted in applause. Hundreds of postal workers, many of them experienced carriers who'd been reinstated because of the lawsuit, stood and cheered. After the ceremony, workers approached me with their stories. I was fired at 58, one woman said. Your lawsuit got me reinstated. Thank you. I was told I was too slow, a man said. But now I'm training new carriers, teaching them that slow and careful is better than fast and careless. I'm 63 and I thought my career was over, another woman said. But because of you, I'm still working, still making a difference. These conversations, these thank yous from people I'd never met, meant more than any award. Because the fight hadn't been about me. It had been about proving that experience, care, and community knowledge matter. At 67, I finally started thinking about retirement. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to spend more time with Carol, with our grandchildren, with the life I'd built outside of work. Over that final year, I taught her everything. Not just the addresses, but the people. Mrs. Patterson's side door. The Rodriguez family's need for help with documents. Tom Bradford's snow-covered mailbox. I introduced her to every resident on the route. I showed her the shortcuts that weren't on any map. I taught her how to read a neighborhood, how to notice when something was wrong, how to be part of the community. On my last day, the neighborhood threw me a retirement party. 63 residents gathered at the community center, the same room where we'd organized 2 years earlier to fight the Postal Service. Mrs. Patterson gave a speech. Frank delivered my mail for 38 years, she said. But he did more than that. He checked on me. He helped me. He cared about me. When the Postal Service fired him, we fought to get him back because he wasn't just our mailman. He was family. Mr. Rodriguez spoke next. Frank helped our family when we were new to this country. He helped us understand documents. He treated us with dignity. He showed us that America can be kind. Tom Bradford spoke from his wheelchair. Frank cleared my mailbox every winter without being asked. He noticed when I couldn't reach packages and adjusted how he delivered them. He made me feel seen. One by one, residents shared stories. 40 years of small acts of care and kindness. 40 years of being part of a community. They gave me a gift. A photo album with pictures from every house on the route. Families I'd watched grow. Children I'd seen born who were now having their own children. Residents who'd moved in as newlyweds and were now grandparents. My life's work, documented in photographs. I stood to speak, overcome with emotion. I was just a mailman, I said. I delivered letters and packages. That's the job. But it became more than a job. It became a calling. Because you let me be part of your lives. You trusted me with your mail, yes. But you also trusted me with your stories, with your struggles, with your joys. And when I was fired, when I was told I was obsolete, you fought for me. You proved that experience matters, that caring matters, that community matters. Thank you for letting me serve you. Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for teaching me that the work we do matters not because of what we produce, but because of who we connect with. The room erupted in applause. People were crying. I was crying. Carol was crying. And I realized that this moment of connection and appreciation was what the Postal Service had tried to eliminate when they fired experienced carriers. They'd tried to reduce mail delivery to a transaction, algorithms and metrics and efficiency. But mail delivery isn't a transaction. It's a relationship. After the party, I walked the route one final time. 12 miles, every mailbox, every house, saying goodbye. Thanking residents for trusting me, introducing Maria as their new carrier. At the last house, Mrs. Patterson hugged me. "We'll miss you, Frank," she said, "but we'll remember you. And because of what you did, because you fought back, postal carriers everywhere are being treated better. You changed more than just our route. You changed the system." I retired that night, hung up my postal uniform, turned in my keys, walked out of the post office for the last time as an employee, but not as a member of the community. I still lived in Riverside, still saw the residents, still walked the streets, just without the mailbag. 6 months into retirement, I received a call from a labor advocacy organization. "Frank," they said, "we want to create a program to help workers fight age discrimination. We want to call it the Frank Wilson Project. We want you to help us build it." I'd spent 40 years delivering mail. Now I'd spend my retirement delivering justice. Over the next 5 years, we helped over 2,000 workers fight wrongful termination. We won cases against companies in healthcare, retail, manufacturing, and service industries. We proved again and again that experience matters and age discrimination is wrong. I traveled the country speaking at conferences, training workers, meeting with legislators. At 70, I was busier than I'd been at 63. But it was meaningful work. Work that mattered. One case stood out. A woman named Dorothy, 61 years old, had worked as a school janitor for 34 years. The school district fired her and replaced her with a private cleaning company to save money. The new company did surface cleaning but missed the details Dorothy had always handled. Classrooms were cleaned but not sanitized. Floors were mopped but not properly disinfected. And within 3 months, the school had a norovirus outbreak that sickened over 100 students. Parents were furious. They organized just like my community had. They demanded Dorothy be reinstated. They filed complaints. They contacted the media, and they reached out to the Frank Wilson Project. I flew to meet Dorothy. She reminded me of myself. Decades of dedicated service, deep knowledge of her work, genuine care for the students, discarded because the district prioritized cost savings over quality. We helped her file a lawsuit. We connected her with the parent organization. We got media coverage, and we won. Dorothy was reinstated with back pay. The private cleaning company was fired, and the school district implemented new policies requiring that experienced workers be retained and valued. After the victory, Dorothy hugged me. "Thank you for showing me how to fight back," she said. "Thank you for proving that we matter." "You proved it," I said. "I just showed you the path." These victories multiplied. Workers across industries were fighting back, organizing, demanding respect, proving that experience matters. At 72, I was invited back to Congress to testify about the impact of the Experienced Worker Protection Act. I presented data showing that companies retaining experienced workers had higher quality, better customer satisfaction, and stronger community relationships. And I argued for stronger protections. The act was expanded. Penalties for age discrimination were increased. Incentives for retaining experienced workers were strengthened. And a new provision required companies to demonstrate that workforce reductions weren't age discriminatory. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. At 73, I received an honorary doctorate from a university for my work on labor rights and age discrimination. The commencement speech invitation asked me to talk about resilience and fighting back. I stood before thousands of graduates and told my story. I was fired at 63, I said. Told I was obsolete, too slow for the algorithm, not efficient enough. I could have accepted it. I could have walked away bitter and defeated, believing that my 38 years of service didn't matter. Instead, I documented the problems. I organized my community. I exposed systemic fraud. I fought back. And I won. Not just for myself, but for 360 other fired carriers. For communities that depended on us. For the principle that experience matters and people matter more than metrics. The graduates gave me a standing ovation. Afterwards, several approached me with questions. "I'm scared about entering the workforce," one young woman said. "I'm scared that by the time I'm 50, I'll be considered obsolete." "Don't be scared," I told her. "Be prepared, build skills, build relationships, build community. Because when you have those things, when you've spent decades doing meaningful work and connecting with people, you have power. You can't be easily discarded." At 75, I finally started to slow down. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I reduced my travel, focused on writing. Carol and I took the trips we'd always planned but never had time for. But I stayed involved with the Frank Wilson Project, mentoring younger advocates, advising on cases, speaking when needed. One morning I received an email from Maria, my replacement on the Riverside route. "Frank," she wrote, "I wanted you to know that Mrs. Patterson passed away last night. She was 92. At her funeral, her family asked me to deliver the eulogy. Patterson had touched many lives. Her grandson, David, the reporter who'd first covered my story, spoke. My grandmother loved this community," he said, "and she especially loved Frank Wilson, the mailman who checked on her every day for 38 years. When Frank was fired, my grandmother was one of the first to organize the fight to get him back. Not because she needed mail delivered, but because she needed to know that Frank cared, that someone was checking on her, that she mattered. Frank taught us that caring for people is never obsolete. That technology can't replace human connection. That experience and relationships matter." After the service, David approached me. "Frank," he said, "my grandmother wanted me to give you this." He handed me a letter. In Mrs. Patterson's shaky handwriting, it read, "Dear Frank, if you're reading this, I've passed on. I wanted to thank you for 38 years of kindness, for delivering my mail to the side door, for checking on me, for making me feel seen. When they fired you, I was heartbroken. But when we fought to get you back, I was proud. Proud to be part of a community that valued you. Proud to prove that caring matters. You changed my life, Frank, and you changed this community. Thank you. With love, Eleanor Patterson." I cried reading that letter, because it reminded me why the fight had mattered. Not for the lawsuit or the reinstatement or the awards, but for Mrs. Patterson, for the Rodriguez family, for Tom Bradford, for every person who needed to know that someone cared. At 76, I was diagnosed with a heart condition. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but a reminder that time is finite. I thought about my legacy. What would I leave behind? The Community Carrier Initiative was thriving. The Frank Wilson Project had helped thousands of workers. Policies had changed. But more than that, I'd proven something important. That one person can make a difference. That fighting back matters. That experience, care, and community are never obsolete. Mark, the administrator who'd leaked documents, wrote about corporate fraud, and residents from my route contributed stories. The book was published when I was 78. It became a bestseller, not because people cared about Postal Service corruption necessarily, but because people resonated with the idea that experience matters, that you can fight back when you're discarded, that community has power. I did a book tour, 20 cities, speaking at bookstores, libraries, and community centers. At every event, people shared their stories. I was fired at 55. I was told I was too expensive. I was replaced by someone half my age with half my skill. And at every event, I said the same thing. You don't have to accept it. You can document the problems. You can organize. You can fight back. You can win. At 79, I received a letter from the Smithsonian. They wanted to include my postal uniform, my mail bag, and documents from the case in an exhibit about labor rights in 21st century America. Your story represents a turning point, the curator wrote. A moment when society began to reconsider how it values experience and care in an age of automation. My uniform is now in the Smithsonian, preserved as a reminder that mailmen matter, that care workers matter, that experience matters. At 80, Carol threw me a birthday party. Our children and grandchildren were there. So were former residents from my route. Maria, still delivering mail to Riverside. Linda, now retired. Mark, who'd risked his pension to help me. And dozens of workers who'd won cases through the Frank Wilson Project. Tom Bradford, now in his 90s, spoke. Frank didn't just deliver my mail, he said. He showed me that people still care. That communities still protect their own. That experience and kindness still matter. When he was fired, I was devastated. But when he fought back, I was inspired. He taught us all that you're never too old to fight for what's right. Changed policies at hundreds of companies. I received updates regularly. A nurse who'd been fired at 59 won her case. A teacher who'd been pushed into early retirement was reinstated. A factory worker who'd been replaced by automation received settlement. Each victory was a reminder that the fight continued, that the work mattered. One afternoon, Maria visited me. She'd been delivering mail to Riverside for 12 years. She was 37 now, no longer the young carrier who'd asked if caring made you less efficient. Frank, she said, I wanted you to know that I'm training my own replacement. I'm being promoted to supervisor, and I'm going to use your philosophy. Care first, efficiency second, community always. That's the legacy I want to carry forward. That's the best thing you could do, I told her. Because the system will always pressure you to prioritize metrics over people. But if you remember that mail delivery is about relationships, not transactions, you'll do right by your carriers and your communities. At 82, I spent most of my time at home with Carol. Our grandchildren visited often. We watched them grow, saw them navigate their own careers, their own challenges. One grandson, Michael, decided to become a mail carrier. Grandpa, he said, I want to do what you did. I want to serve my community. I hugged him. Just remember, I said, it's not about the mail, it's about the people. Michael got a job with the Postal Service, went through training, got his own route, and called me every week to tell me about the people he was meeting, the elderly residents who needed checking on, the families who needed help, the community he was becoming part of. He was carrying forward what I'd started. At 83, Carol's health declined. She'd been my partner for 56 years. My supporter through 38 years of mail delivery and 17 years of fighting for workers' rights. In her final weeks, she held my hand and said, I'm proud of you, Frank. Proud that you fought back. Proud that you proved people matter. Proud of the lives you've changed. Carol passed away surrounded by family. About how she'd encouraged me to fight back when I was fired. About how she'd believed in the importance of the work. She taught me that caring for people is never wasted, I said. That relationships matter more than efficiency. That love, in the end, is what makes life meaningful. After Carol died, I struggled. We'd been together for 56 years. The house felt empty. The days felt purposeless. But the work continued. The Frank Wilson Project still needed leadership. Workers still needed help, and I still had something to contribute. At 84, I did my final public speaking event, a conference on the future of work and the value of experience. I was in a wheelchair by then. My voice was weaker, but my message was strong. I've spent my life proving that experience matters, I said. That caring for people can't be automated. That communities have power when they organize. I was fired at 63 and told I was obsolete. I fought back and won. I helped 360 other workers win. I changed policies that protect millions. But the most important thing I did was prove that one person can make a difference. That you don't have to accept being discarded. That you can fight for what's right. The audience gave me a standing ovation. Afterward, dozens of workers approached me. Thank you for showing us how to fight. Thank you for proving we matter. Thank you for changing the system. At 85, I moved into assisted living. I couldn't maintain the house alone. My children helped me pack. We sorted through 40 years of accumulated life. And in a box in the basement, I found my original mailbag from my first day as a carrier. 45 years old, worn leather, my name stitched on the side. I held it and remembered. 23 years old, fresh out of military service, starting a job delivering mail, not knowing that it would become my calling, not knowing that I'd walk over 160,000 miles serving one community, not knowing that I'd fight to prove that experience and care matter. That mailbag represented everything. Decades of service, relationships built, lives touched. I donated it to the Postal Service Museum, so future generations could see that mailmen matter, that experience matters, that caring for people matters. At 86, I received a visit from a documentary filmmaker. "Frank," she said, "I want to make a film about your life, about being fired, fighting back, changing the system. I want to show that it's never too late to stand up for what's right." I agreed. Over the next year, she interviewed me, my children, my grandchildren, former residents from my route, workers who'd been helped by the Frank Wilson Project. The documentary, Neither Rain Nor Snow, The Frank Wilson Story, premiered at film festivals. It won awards. It was picked up by a streaming service. Millions of people watched it, and I received thousands of messages. I was fired at 60 and thought my life was over. Your story gave me hope. I'm fighting back against age discrimination because you showed me how. I'm a young worker and your story taught me to value experienced colleagues. Thank you. At 87, my health was declining. I spent most days in my room at the assisted living facility, but I still received visitors. Maria brought mail, not to deliver but to show me. Letters from workers we'd helped, updates on cases, news about policy changes. Michael, my grandson, visited with stories from his route. The elderly resident he'd checked on who'd fallen and needed help. The immigrant family he'd assisted with documents. The community he was building. You're doing it right, I told him. You're caring for people. That's what matters. At 88, I knew my time was limited. I asked my children to gather. I had things I wanted to say. You've watched me fight for 25 years, I told them. Since I was fired at 63. You've seen me expose corruption, organize communities, win cases, change policies. But the most important thing I did was prove that people matter. That experience matters. That caring for someone can't be reduced to a metric. I want you to carry that forward, in your own work, in your own lives, in how you treat people. The work I did wasn't special, it was necessary, and it's work that never ends. Someone will always try to prioritize efficiency over humanity, profit over people, metrics over relationships. When that happens, fight back, organize, prove that people matter. My children promised. At 89, I was mostly bedridden, but my mind was clear. I thought about my life. 40 years as a mailman, 25 years fighting for workers' rights. A life spent proving that experience and care matter. Because we proved them wrong, Maria said. We proved that experience matters, that caring matters, that you matter. The dedication ceremony was held on a sunny Saturday. I was wheeled to the front of the building. Hundreds of people attended, former residents from my route, postal workers from across the country, workers who'd been helped by the Frank Wilson Project, my family, my community. The Postmaster General spoke. Frank Wilson spent 40 years delivering mail, he said. But he did more than that. He built community. He cared for people. He proved that postal service is about relationships, not just transactions. When we fired him, we made a terrible mistake. A mistake that Frank turned into a movement. He exposed corruption. He organized communities. He changed policies. He proved that experience, care, and human connection can never be automated. Today we honor him by naming this post office after him. So future generations will remember that mailmen matter, that caring matters, that people matter. They unveiled the sign, Frank Wilson Community Post Office, my name, on a building. Permanent recognition that a mailman mattered. After the ceremony, residents lined up to thank me. You changed my life, Frank. You showed me I mattered. You taught me to fight back. You proved that experience isn't obsolete. One by one, they shared what my work had meant to them. And I realized that all of this, had started because I refused to accept being discarded. Because I documented problems, because I organized my community, because I fought back. At 90, I was still alive, still thinking, still receiving visitors, still connected to the work. The Frank Wilson Project had grown beyond me. Young advocates were running it, winning cases, changing policies, carrying forward the mission. One afternoon, a young woman visited. "Mr. Wilson," she said, "my name is Sarah. I'm 26. I work for the Frank Wilson Project. I wanted to meet you and thank you. You created something that's changing lives. We just won a case for a 62-year-old nurse who was fired for being too slow. Because of you, she got her job back. That's the work," I told Sarah. "That's what matters." At 91, I wrote my final letter, addressed to workers everywhere who'd been told they're obsolete. "Dear friend," I wrote, "if you're reading this, you've probably been fired, told you're too old, too slow, too expensive, not efficient enough. I know how that feels. I was fired at 63 after 40 years of service, but I didn't accept it. I documented the problems. I organized my community. I exposed corruption. I fought back. And I won. Not just for myself, but for thousands of others. You can too. You don't have to accept being discarded. You have experience. You have knowledge. You have relationships. Those are powerful tools. Use them. Document everything. Find allies. Organize. Fight. Because the system will tell you that efficiency matters more than people. That metrics matter more than relationships. That profit matters more than care. Prove them wrong. Show that experience matters. That caring for people can't be automated. That human connection is irreplaceable. You're not obsolete. You're essential. Never forget that. With respect and solidarity, Frank Wilson, I asked that the letter be published on the Frank Wilson Project website, so workers who felt discarded could read it and find hope. At 92, I was tired. My body had finally given out after 9 decades, but I was at peace. I'd lived a full life, a meaningful life, a life that mattered. My grandson Michael visited one last time. "Grandpa," he said, "I want you to know that I'm training my own replacement now, passing on what you taught me, the philosophy of care, the importance of community, the belief that mail delivery is about relationships. Your legacy continues." "That's all I could ask for," I told him. "The work continues. The care continues. The fight continues." That night, surrounded by family, I closed my eyes for the last time. I died at 92. A former mailman who'd spent his life proving that experience and care matter, that people matter more than metrics, that you're never too old to fight for what's right. "Frank taught me that mail delivery isn't about efficiency," she said. "It's about seeing people, caring for them, making them feel valued." I've spent 15 years trying to live up to his example, and I've taught every carrier I supervise the same philosophy. Michael, my grandson, spoke. "My grandfather was fired and told he was obsolete," he said. "He could have accepted it. Instead, he fought back and changed the world. He proved that experience matters, that one person can make a difference, that caring for people is never wasted." I carry his mail bag now, not literally. His original bag is in a museum, but I carry his philosophy, his commitment to care, his belief that people matter. Sarah from the Frank Wilson Project spoke. Frank Wilson created an organization that has helped over 10,000 workers fight age discrimination, she said. "We've won over 7,000 cases. We've secured over $500 million in back pay and settlements. We've changed policies at over 1,000 companies. But more than that, Frank changed how America thinks about older workers. He proved that experience isn't obsolete, that you can fight back when you're discarded, that people matter more than algorithms." The Postmaster General attended. Frank Wilson spent 40 years as a mailman, he said, but his impact far exceeded those 40 years. He exposed systemic problems. He forced us to reckon with our mistakes. He proved that Postal Service is about community, not just delivery. Today, the Postal Service values experienced workers because Frank Wilson fought to prove they matter. We train carriers to care about communities because Frank Wilson showed us why it matters. We prioritize relationships over metrics because Frank Wilson demonstrated the cost of getting it wrong. After the service, they held a procession through Riverside, past the houses I delivered to for 40 years, past Mrs. Patterson's old house, past the Rodriguez family's home, past Tom Bradford's place. At every house, residents had tied blue ribbons to their mailboxes. Hundreds of blue ribbons. A neighborhood honoring their mailman. My ashes were scattered along the route. 12 miles through Riverside. The route I'd walked for 40 years. The community I'd served. The people I'd cared for. I became part of the neighborhood. Literally and figuratively. Part of the ground, part of the memory, part of the story. Healthcare workers used it to fight for patient care over profit. Teachers used it to argue for smaller class sizes and experienced educators. Social workers used it to demand lower caseloads and better support. The principle was universal. People matter more than metrics. Care can't be automated. Experience is valuable. 10 years after I died, Congress passed the Frank Wilson Worker Protection Act. It expanded protections against age discrimination, created tax incentives for companies that retained and valued experienced workers, established oversight to prevent corporations from replacing workers with automation without demonstrating necessity, required companies to prove that workforce reductions weren't age discriminatory. The act was landmark legislation, the most significant worker protection law in 50 years, and it was named after a mailman. 15 years after I died, my documentary was shown in schools across America. Students learned about me in history classes, not as a famous person, but as an ordinary worker who did something extraordinary, who refused to accept being discarded, who fought back and won, who proved that one person can change a system. Teachers used my story to teach about organizing, advocacy, and standing up for what's right. 20 years after I died, the Postal Service established the Frank Wilson Award, given annually to carriers who exemplified community-centered service, who knew their roots intimately, who cared about residents, who proved that mail delivery was about relationships. The first award went to Michael, my grandson, who'd spent 23 years walking routes and caring for communities, just like his grandfather. 25 years after I died, my book was still in print, still assigned in labor studies courses, still read by workers who needed to know that fighting back was possible. The Frank Wilson Community Post Office still stood, my name on the building, a reminder that mailmen matter. 30 years after I died, Maria retired after 34 years of postal service. She'd spent her career implementing my philosophy, training carriers to care, proving that people matter more than metrics. At her retirement party, she said, "Frank Wilson changed my life. He taught me that you can be efficient and caring, that success isn't measured in delivery times, but in relationships built, that the work matters because people matter." I've tried to carry that forward, to teach it to every carrier I supervised. He fought for workers' rights for 25 years. He proved that experience matters, that caring can't be automated, and that people matter more than metrics. He changed how America values older workers. His legacy continues in every carrier who sees people, not addresses. In every community that organizes for justice. In every worker who refuses to be discarded. 40 years after I died, the neighborhood still remembered me. Not everyone. The oldest residents who'd known me personally had mostly passed away. But the story persisted. New residents heard about the mailman who'd served Riverside for 40 years, who'd been fired and fought back, who'd changed postal service across America. Every year on my birthday, the community held a remembrance. They walked the route, 12 miles through Riverside, carrying letters and packages, delivering them to each other, celebrating community, honoring the principle that caring for people matters. 50 years after I died, my great-grandson became a mail carrier. David Wilson. He'd heard stories about me his whole life. About the grandfather who'd walked 160,000 miles, who'd cared for communities, who'd fought back when discarded. He wanted to carry forward that legacy. David got assigned to a route in a different city, different streets, different residents, but the same principles. He learned names. He checked on elderly residents. He helped families with documents. He built relationships. And when his district tried to implement automated delivery that prioritized speed over accuracy, David organized. He documented problems. He rallied the community. He fought back, just like his great-grandfather had taught him. Just like I'd proven was possible. The work continued. The philosophy spread. The fight persisted. 60 years after I died, labor historians studied my impact. They documented how one fired mailman had sparked a national reconsideration of automation, age discrimination, and the value of care work. They traced policy changes back to my case. They showed how the Frank Wilson Worker Protection Act had protected millions. They demonstrated that my lawsuit had changed corporate behavior across industries, and they concluded that I represented a turning point. A moment when society began to reckon with the human cost of prioritizing efficiency over care. Couldn't notice when Tom Bradford hadn't picked up mail in days and check on him. The most advanced delivery systems still required humans who cared, who saw people, not addresses, who built relationships, not just completed transactions. And those humans, those carriers who cared, were valued, protected, respected, because a fired mailman had fought to prove they mattered. 100 years after I died, the Frank Wilson Community Post Office held a centennial celebration. The building was historic now, preserved as a landmark. The statue still stood, my name still on the building. They invited postal workers from across the country. They screened the documentary. They held panel discussions about the future of work and the value of experience. And they recommitted to the principles I'd fought for, that people matter more than metrics, that care can't be automated, that experience is valuable, that community is essential, that you're never too old to fight for what's right. The speakers included David Wilson, my great-grandson, now retired after 40 years of his own postal service. My great-grandfather was fired at 63, David said. He was told he was obsolete, that technology could replace him, that his 40 years of experience didn't matter. He proved them wrong. He exposed corruption. He organized his community. He fought back. He won. And he changed how America thinks about workers, about aging, about the value of care. I spent my career trying to live up to his example, trying to care for people the way he did, trying to prove that relationships matter more than efficiency. I wasn't as successful as he was. I didn't change national policy or win historic lawsuits, but I served my community. I cared for my residents. I taught younger carriers to value people, and I carried forward his legacy. That's what he would have wanted, not fame or recognition, but for the work to continue, for the care to persist, for the principle to spread, that people matter. The audience, postal workers, community members, labor advocates, stood and applauded. Not for David, but for the idea he represented, that one person's fight can echo across generations, that principles proven by one mailman can shape how society values work and workers. 125 years after I died, historians debated my legacy. Some argued I'd been more symbol than substance, that the changes attributed to me would have happened anyway, that I'd just been in the right place at the right time. Others argued I'd been transformative, that I'd sparked a movement, that without my fight, age discrimination protections wouldn't exist, that I'd changed culture, not just policy. The truth, as always, was complicated. I hadn't single-handedly changed America, but I'd been a catalyst, a flashpoint, a story that crystallized issues people were already grappling with. And that mattered, because change doesn't come from one person, it comes from movements, from communities organizing, from ordinary people refusing to accept injustice. I'd started something, but thousands of others had carried it forward, had won their own cases, had organized their own communities, had fought their own battles. The change belonged to all of them. 150 years after I died, my story was taught in schools, not in detail. Most students didn't learn the specifics of postal service corruption or legal battles, but they learned the principle that ordinary people can fight back, that experience matters, that caring for people is valuable, that community organizing works, that you're never too old to stand up for what's right. Teachers used my story alongside other labor leaders, alongside civil rights activists, alongside anyone who'd fought for justice. I was one example among many, one story illustrating universal truths about power, organizing, and change. And that was enough. 200 years after I died, the details of my life had faded. Few people knew specifics about routes walked or lawsuits won. But the principle remained. The idea that I'd come to represent persisted. Experience matters. Care can't be automated. People matter more than metrics. These ideas, fought for and proven by a fired mailman, had become embedded in culture. They shaped how society thought about work, about aging, about automation, about value. Not perfectly, not universally, but meaningfully. 300 years after I died, my name appeared in history books. Brief mention, a footnote in the larger story of 21st century labor movements. Frank Wilson, postal worker who challenged age discrimination and sparked national debate about automation and care work. That's what I'd become. A footnote, a name in a textbook, a statue in front of an old post office, a principle people followed without remembering where it came from. And that was perfect, because the work had never been about me. It had been about proving something important, that you don't have to accept being discarded, that you can fight back, that caring for people matters. That principle didn't need my name attached to it. It just needed to persist. People still walked past and wondered who Frank Wilson had been, why a post office was named after him, why a statue honored a mailman. Tour guides told the story, simplified over centuries, but the core remained. Frank Wilson was a mail carrier who was fired for being too old. His community organized and fought to get him back. He exposed corruption and changed postal service across America. He proved that experience matters and that ordinary people can fight injustice. Visitors took photos with the statue. Children asked why a mailman deserved a statue. Parents explained that heroes come in all forms, that you don't need to be famous or powerful to make a difference, that caring for people and standing up for what's right is heroic. 1,000 years after I died, my name was mostly forgotten. The Frank Wilson Community Post Office had been demolished and rebuilt. The statue was in a museum. My story was a historical curiosity. But the principle persisted, embedded so deeply in culture that people no longer questioned it. Of course, experienced workers should be valued. Of course, automation shouldn't eliminate care. Of course, communities should organize when injustice occurs. These ideas, fought for by a mailman a millennium ago, had become self-evident. And that was the ultimate victory. Not fame, not remembrance, but principles that outlasted any individual life. The work I'd done hadn't been about me. It had been about proving something that future generations would accept as obvious. That people matter, that experience matters, that caring can't be automated, that you're never too old to fight for what's right. Those principles, seeded by one fired mailman's fight, had grown into foundations of how society operated. Most people didn't know where the principles came from, didn't know my name, didn't remember the Postal Service corruption or the lawsuit or the organizing, but they lived by the principles, and that was enough. That was everything. Back in the present, in the moment of my story, something important was happening. Young postal workers were being trained, not with impossible metrics, not with pressure to falsify records, but with the philosophy I'd fought for. Care for your community. Learn residents' names. See people, not addresses. Build relationships. Prove that mail delivery is about connection. These workers, trained in my philosophy, were serving communities across America, making sure Mrs. Patterson's received medications, helping Rodriguez families with documents, checking on Tom Bradford's, proving every day that experience and care matter. And she was retiring. On her last day, the neighborhood threw her a party, just like they had for me. Residents gathered to thank her for caring, for knowing their names, for being part of their community. Maria gave a speech. "Frank Wilson taught me that mail delivery is about relationships," she said. "For 38 years, I've tried to live up to his example, to care for residents, to see people, to build community. And I've taught every carrier I supervise the same philosophy. Because Frank was right. Experience matters, care matters, people matter. The work continues. The carriers I've trained are training others. The philosophy spreads. And every day, postal workers across America prove that Frank Wilson was right to fight back." After the party, Maria walked the route one last time. 12 miles through Riverside, past houses where she'd delivered for 38 years. Past Mrs. Patterson's old house, now occupied by a young family. Past the Rodriguez family's home, now multi-generational. Past Tom Bradford's place, where his great-grandson lived. She stopped at my statue in front of the post office, placed flowers at the base. "Thank you, Frank," she whispered. "Thank you for fighting. Thank you for proving we matter. Thank you for teaching me that care is never wasted. Your legacy continues." Across America, in post offices and distribution centers, on routes and loading docks, postal workers were living my philosophy. Caring for communities, valuing experience, proving that people matter. And when companies tried to implement automation that eliminated care, when metrics threatened to replace relationships, when efficiency was prioritized over people, workers organized, they documented problems, they rallied communities, they fought back, just like I'd shown them. Just like I'd proven was possible. The work never ended, but it continued. Carried forward by people who believed, as I had believed, that caring for people matters. That experience is valuable. That community is essential. That you're never too old to fight for what's right. Somewhere, right now, a 63-year-old worker is being fired. Told they're obsolete. Told they're too expensive. Told they can be replaced. And somewhere, right now, that worker is deciding whether to accept it or fight back. This story is for them. To show that fighting back is possible. That organizing works. That communities have power. That experience matters. That you matter. I fought back. And I won. Not just for myself, for 360 other fired workers. For communities that depended on us. For the principle that experience and care matter. Thank you for watching my story. If it resonated with you, if it inspired you, if it gave you hope, I need you to do something for me right now. First, smash that like button. It tells YouTube this story matters and helps it reach more people who need to hear it. People who've been told they're too old. People who think fighting back is impossible. People who need to know that experience matters. Second, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story of people who refused to be counted out. People who proved that age isn't a limitation. People who fought back and won. Third, share this video. Send it to someone who's been told they're obsolete. Post it on your social media. Help spread the message that you're never too old to fight for what's right. That experience matters. That caring for people is valuable work. And finally, tell me your story in the comments below. Have you been fired for being too old? Have you been replaced by automation that doesn't care? Have you fought back? Have you organized your community? I want to hear from you. I want to know where you're watching from and what this story meant to you. Because every one of us has the power to fight back. Every one of us can prove that experience matters. Every single one of us matters, regardless of our age or what systems tell us. Your experience is valuable. Your care matters. Your work matters. You matter. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. Remember, I was fired at 63. They told me a computer could do my job better. They said I was too slow for the algorithm. They replaced me with a system designed to fail. But I fought back. I organized 63 residents who became 847 allies. I exposed corruption that led to federal investigations. I won a $64 million judgment. I changed national policy. I proved that one mailman matters. If I could do it, you can too. Your best days aren't behind you. They're the ones you choose to make count. Go make them count. See you in the next story. Neither rain, nor snow, nor age discrimination can stop someone who refuses to be counted out.